Hello, my name is Tarah Pritchett, and today is April 12th, 2020. In this video, we're going to be talking about Erikson's 8 stages in psychosocial development. Here's a quick outline of the various questions I'll be answering in this interview. So let's get into defining what Erikson's 8 stages of psychosocial development are exactly, and what is the commonality between them all. The commonality is that each stage can be kind of pinpointed by a specific challenge or crisis that is meant to be resolved within the growth and development of that stage. These 8 stages range from birth to death, and each individual experience within this stage is going to be different. It's going to be different challenges and crises, but all have an underlying theme. For example, the first stage of development is mistrust versus trust. And so what this looks like is whenever an infant comes home with parents, they're going to learn whether or not they can trust their caregiver to meet their basic needs and provide affection, or if they cannot trust their caregiver. And this develops a sense of mistrust. And so this is the conflict, this is the crisis that the individual experiences, and the result of this stage may manifest itself later in adult relationships, in which the child who was not given consistent or adequate care in developing that trust may struggle with adult relationships and trusting. However, it is not to say that this is a hard and fast rule that if you do not resolve the conflict adequately in the stage itself, that you cannot resolve that conflict later. For example, the child who does not receive adequate care in infancy and develops mistrust for their caregivers may then go on to grow and develop and be able to form meaningful, trusting relationships. I currently see myself as being in stage 6 and preparing myself for stage 7. In stage 6, I am experiencing a challenge of intimacy versus isolation. I identify with this this stage because I clearly see that I am out of the identity versus role confusion stage due to personal growth and experiences that I had in both my high school years as well as my years in university. And I am clear in my identity and I know my place in life. I'm currently involved in a serious relationship as well, which fits into the particular stage in which we're seeking either intimacy or we retreat into isolation. So in my case, I am in a serious relationship, and our primary goal is to uplift each other's personal identities and also grow and encourage each other to develop ourselves further. And at the part where I am priming myself for stage 7, I'm pursuing a career in teaching as well as prepping myself for a family life. And so I'm setting myself up for each of those things that will get me to stage 7. While I'm not there yet, I am preparing myself for that within my stage 6. And so that's in regards to my behavior and outlook in my future classroom. I believe being in my current stage of life, it will allow me to develop my teaching style in accordance to my clear identity and role in the world. Additionally, being in a stage in which I'm seeking to grow myself and others, I'll be able to collaborate with my coworkers and grow and help others grow, and be able to really bounce ideas off each other and grow fluidly without having any kind of crisis in regards to identity, or without being too stuck in my own way. I think this stage of my life, I'm very open to new ideas and new possibilities, and I think that being in the stage in my teaching career and as well as in my classroom, it will help me to improve my instruction as well as my teaching philosophy overall. Additionally, because I'm moving towards stage 7, this is a stage in which I highly value sowing into the next generations and my community, and so I can anticipate the teaching will be a very fulfilling and growth-provoking career, and working with students will also be very fulfilling and growth-provoking as well. I think that this can help to create a positive outlook in the classroom in the way that I view it. It's not just a means to an end or a paycheck, it's more of me fulfilling my role. Considering my target age group of middle school and high school, I can make the pretty safe assumption that my students will likely be in Erikson stage 5 of development. This is the identity versus role confusion stage. The stage begins at around age 12, which is right when middle school begins, and it finishes out at age 18, which is approximately senior in high school, somewhere around there. Again, these are not hard, fast age groups. Somebody in their early 20s can still be in this stage. It's not necessarily a hard, fast. There's some fluidity within this. And so this is the stage in which my students are going to be searching for their own unique place in the world, as well as their own unique identity and what makes them them, I suppose, what makes them unique and special. My assumption that my students will likely be in Erikson stage 5. I can infer that my students will rely heavily on peer approval and peer acceptance. This is again the stage in which students are really trying to find their own personally unique identity. According to Slavin's description of these stages, individuals in stage 5 are seeking to find a unique identity, and this is oftentimes apart from their parents or family members. Finding one's own identity and role in the world is the greatest challenge or crisis of this particular stage. Within the stage, it can manifest itself in deciding what career to choose, or what college to go to, or if you want to go to college, or what social groups you want to be involved in, or sexual development, physiological development. This is really a time of huge changes in one's life, and it's difficult to process that as a young adult. In this stage, I can really expect my students to be more critical and apprehensive in regards to authority and parental figures such as teachers, coaches, mentors, and other adults in their lives. Oftentimes, students in these stages are vulnerable to drug addiction, sexual experimentation, or other unhealthy relationships that they try to find their identity in. There's a general sense of anxiousness in this stage because of the uncertainty. These students that are in this stage don't know what their future holds, they don't know what the right decision is to make, but they want to be separate from their parents and from their families, and so there really is a general sense of unrest. I understand perfectly that in teaching students at the high school, middle school level, I'm really going to have to put a lot of extra effort into ensuring that my students are focusing just as much on their academics as they are on their social place. So in identifying possible disconnects between my personal stage at stage 6 and the stage of my students, which would be stage 5, I can see a possible connection actually, where Okay. So in considering the differences between stage 6 and stage 5 and possibly identifying a disconnect between the two that may make a challenge for teaching students at stage 5, I can see that while I am really close to stage 5, I am not so far removed, so I can still relate to them and understand what they're going through and remember what it was like to feel that social unrest and things of that nature. However, I am so close that they may not see me as someone who is wise enough to help guide them because I'm just barely on the other side of things. And so I think that may be a challenge in teaching students who are in the middle school, high school range at that stage 5 of trying to find their identity. Additionally, I do think that as a teacher, students may see me as an authoritative or a disciplinary figure and want to buck up against that because it is similar to a possible parental role who is trying to guide them. These students are oftentimes rebelling against their parents, doing what they want rather than what their parent wants, and as a teacher you often play a similar role, not quite the same, but you're definitely aiding in developing a student's emotional character, intellectual character, and other things of that nature. And so they may see you as a parental figure, and I can see that being a possible disconnect in that I would want to remain relatable as well as being an adequate. But to finish up our discussion, I would like to state that understanding the psychological stages of development that students are going through can be tremendously important in creating instruction that is adapted and well-formed to meet the needs of the students. Well, that concludes our discussion on Erikson's 8 stages of psychosocial development. Thank you for listening, and thank you for staying tuned for the whole video.